Alright guys, here we go with more examples. Our second example we're going to review is 4 parentheses a half x minus 3 close parentheses plus 9 equals 10 minus 3x. Alright, so if you follow the steps that we took during class, our first step is to simplify both sides of the equation. If there are parentheses, then we want to distribute. So I see parentheses, so my first step is to use that distributive property. So that means I'm going to multiply out the 4 to every term inside the parentheses. 4 times a half is 2x. 4 times negative 3, so make sure I include that sign. That's minus 12. And then I can carry down the plus 9. Now the right side of this equation is already completely simplified, so I don't have to worry about doing anything to the right side right now. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. Now again, remember our note. When we combine like terms, where is it? Take the sign in front. So this is a negative 12. This is a positive 9. And negative 12 plus 9, I'm left with 3 negatives, so that's 2x minus 3 equals 10 minus 3x. Again, I didn't do anything to the right side. Now what we're going to do is, I have variable terms on both sides of the equation. I want to have my variables just on one side of the equation. So I can get rid of this 2x by subtracting 2x, or I could get rid of the negative 3x by adding 3x. Now I'm going to choose to add 3x, and the reason why I preferred this is because then that makes the number in front of x positive. Alright, so that's 5x minus 3 is equal to 10. Alright, so now we just have one variable term on one side of the equation. That's what we want. But I still want to get rid of this minus 3. So I'm going to do the inverse operations, add 3 to both sides of the equation, and get 5x is equal to 13. Alright, and then my last step here is I want to go ahead, get rid of that coefficient, the number in front of x. We're going to divide it out. So divide by 5 on both sides, and x equals 13 fifths. And that's your answer. Alright, our next problem, number 3. Okay, this is, let's see. Alright, we are going to work with 5x minus 1 equals x divided by 2. Alright. Well, let's see what's going on here. X is being divided by 2. Now, there's two ways in which I could write this problem. I could write it as x is being divided by 2, or because really this is 1x over 2, I could bring out that fraction a half x. The reason why is if I take 1/2 and multiply that by x, okay, I could write this as x over 1. When we multiply fractions, we multiply across, that becomes x over 2. So you could see how this is the same thing as a half x. Now there's multiple ways that we could solve this problem. I'm going to show you the most common method, and then afterwards I'll show you a little trick. Okay, so I can treat this as a half x. This is 5x minus 1. Alright. And now I want to get x just to one side of the equation. Since x is already on my right side of the equation here, let me go ahead and subtract 5x on the left side. So we get negative 4x equals, negative 4.5. 4.5x equals negative 1. Now in math we actually prefer to write this as a improper fraction rather than a mixed number. So if I go 4 times 2 plus 1, so this is the same thing as negative 9 halves x equals negative 1. Now our next thing is we have to get rid of that number in front of x. don't worry, even though it's a fraction, we could still just divide out that number. Okay, so those will cancel. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Now let's think about what's happening here, because this is kind of complicated. There's a fraction side of fraction. So what's happening is we're taking -1/2 and we're dividing that by -9 halves. -1 divided by -9 halves. Now, when I divide by a fraction, that's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Some of you guys know this as copy dot flip. Again, that reciprocal is just when we flip that other fraction. And to multiply these fractions, I could write this as -1 over 1, multiply across, so this is -2 over -9. And because this is the numerator and denominator is both negative, negative divided by negative is just a positive. So that's +2/9 will be that value of x. Okay, so that's one possible way we could look at doing this problem. Now, something I want to point out is another way when we divide by when we have the number, a fraction in front of x, and we divide out by that fraction, dividing by 9 halves, notice, is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, -2/9. So, at this step, let me show you in a different color. At this step, what we could have done instead is we could have multiplied this side of the fraction by -2/9. And now, if this fraction is negative, we don't want to change the sign, so we're going to keep this as negative. -2/9. Now, a negative times a negative, that will become positive. Those numerators cancel, the denominators will cancel. So then you're just left with x. And you'll realize at this step, -1 times a negative, that's positive. And then we have 2/9. So that's how we could skip ourselves a bunch of steps to get this answer. Okay, so that's a lot easier. So that's one shortcut I'm going to show you for this problem. Now there's an even better shortcut, so just wait. Okay, so this shortcut is 5x minus 1, I'm rewriting the problem, equals x divided by 2. Now, if you're someone that really hates fractions, what you're going to do is to get rid of this fraction, this 2 in the denominator, I'm just going to multiply each side of the problem by 2, each side of the equation. So then these 2's will cancel. You're left with x is equal to 2 times 5x minus 1. Notice that gets rid of the whole fraction. X is by itself on the right side. Now, make sure when I multiply the left side by 2, I have to multiply this entire side, okay? So that means I'm going to distribute that 2. The 5x is being multiplied by 2, and so is the -1. So this is 10x minus 2 equals x. Now I want to move that x term to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract it out. Then we end up with -9x equals -2. Finish solving, we divide each side by -9. So x equals 2/9. Booyah! Alright, here's the next problem we're going to go over. Now notice, well actually, before we go through this, I want you to go ahead, pause the video, try this on your own. It's a hard problem. It is okay to struggle through it. Once when you given it a solid effort, maybe like 5 minutes trying to work out different solutions, then go ahead and play this video. Alright, so hopefully you've tried different things. Now, maybe you're trying to multiply each side by x because you have x in the denominator. Maybe you're trying to, I don't know what you were doing. But let me tell you something. If you just take a moment, take a step back, and look at what's going on in this problem, do we notice any similarities on both sides of the equation? Well, we have a plus x here and a plus x on the other side. So guess what? Those can cancel out. How do they cancel out? Well, if we subtract x on both sides of the equation, boom, they cancel. They're gone. Bye-bye. This is equal 2 is equal to 5 over x. All right, this looks a lot nicer. Now, remember what Miss Redmond said. When there's x in the denominator, I don't like fractions. How do I get rid of this number in the denominator? Go back and look at what we did in the previous problem. When 2 was in the denominator, what's one way I could get rid of that 2? Multiply by 2. So in this case, I really don't like that x in the denominator. So what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply each side of the equation by x. Right, when I do that, these x's will cancel on the left side, and I'm just left with 5. 2 times x is 2x. Ooh, I'm almost there. Now let's just divide by that coefficient, 2, and x equals 5/2. You're done, you guys. That's it.